The galaxy held its breath. In the dark vacuum of space, Earth's fleets had grown to an unimaginable size, their ships a stark contrast to the other civilizations' fragile armadas. The power that humanity had unlocked, once buried beneath the surface of their world, was now in full display, an empire rising from the ashes of silence, with Earth at its core. And the galaxy was about to witness the birth of a new order. Caranese watched the flickering lights on the display, each one a sign of a fleet moving, advancing, conquering. The Terran ships moved with precision, coordinated as if they were a single organism. He'd never seen anything like it. Each ship a piece of something far greater than the sum of its parts. Humanity had tapped into a force they weren't supposed to understand. And now, the entire galaxy was at their mercy. "Commander," Lerock's voice was tight, almost urgent. "The Council has made its decision. They've called for immediate action. We either unite against Earth or the galaxy falls." Caranese turned to her, his face grim. "The Council has no choice but to act. But can they? We've seen how Earth's power has grown in such a short time. It's no longer a question of defeating them. It's a question of survival." The officer at the comm station spoke up, his voice shaking. "Commander, there's an incoming transmission from Earth." Caranese's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just any communication. This was Earth's declaration. They were no longer a diplomatic player. They were a force. "Put through," Caranese ordered, his voice steady, despite the gnawing tension in his chest. The screen flickered to life, and once again, the human ambassador, Ruthless, appeared. But this time, there was no trace of diplomacy in his expression. His face was hard, resolute, like someone who knew they held all the cards. "Commander Caranese," Ruthless began, his voice calm, but with an underlying force that made Caranese's blood run cold. "The galaxy has had its time. Earth's time has come. We are no longer a species to be overlooked, no longer a planet to be ignored. You will either accept the new order, or you will be swept aside." Caranese's mind raced. Every part of him screamed to fight, to unite the remaining powers against Earth. But the truth lingered heavily in the air. The forces Earth had unleashed were beyond anything they could match. The galaxy was teetering on the edge of something that could either be a new dawn or its destruction. Raleigh's gaze hardened, and he leaned forward slightly. "We gave the galaxy every opportunity to embrace what we are. Now, we've made our decision. Earth will rule. There is no more negotiation. There is no more waiting. The Empire has risen, and you will all learn to live with it." The transmission cut off. A deathly silence filled the room as Caranese stood motionless. The weight of Raleigh's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, threatening to break at any moment. The entire galaxy was now staring down the barrel of humanity's weaponized awakening. "What now?" Lerock whispered, her voice almost lost in the stillness. Caranese didn't answer right away. His mind was already formulating the next steps, but in his heart, he knew it was too late. Earth had sealed its fate, and so had the galaxy. The lights dimmed, signaling the start of the inevitable. The galaxy, with all its might, would be forced to bow, or it would burn in defiance. The final question was no longer whether the galaxy could survive. It was whether Earth would show mercy, or if humanity had already chosen its course. As Caranese stared at the galaxy map, the stars no longer looked like symbols of hope. They were simply targets, marking the beginning of a new era. And humanity had just begun. The stars flickered as if they feared what was coming. The once proud and united Galactic Council was now a fractured assembly. Fear, uncertainty, and desperation hung thick in the air. No one spoke of it openly, but each representative knew the truth. Humanity had just shattered the balance of power in the galaxy. And the worst part? No one had expected it. No one had prepared for this. Caranese stood in the war room, a map of the galaxy displayed before him, its planets now marked with the rising threat of Earth. The humans had awakened the ancient power they had kept hidden for so long, and now the galaxy was being forced to reckon with the consequences. "Commander," Lerock's voice cut through the tense silence. "Reports are coming in from all sectors. Earth is accelerating their dominance. Their fleet is expanding, and their technology is beyond anything we've seen. It's not just military strength they've uncovered. It's control over the very fabric of space itself. Karani's eyes were fixed on the map, tracing the patterns of the shifts in power. It was like watching a planet turn from fragile to untouchable in the blink of an eye. And yet, the Council still underestimates them. They think we can contain them, Lee Rock muttered bitterly, shaking her head. But we all know the truth. The Council has no idea what humanity has unleashed. They've tapped into something primal. And now Earth isn't just a world. It's the center of a new order. The weight of those words hung in the room. Karani's exhaled sharply, turning to face the assembled officers. They were the best the Talnarch fleet had to offer. But now, no skill or strategy seemed enough to take on the rising power of Earth. We've tried negotiation. We've tried diplomacy. But this isn't a battle of words anymore. It's a fight for control, Karani said, his voice low and steady. The rest of the galaxy sees Earth's rise as a threat to their existence. If we don't act swiftly, the Council will be forced into full-scale war. And if we don't act, Liroc's voice trailed off, knowing the outcome. Earth will become a new empire, one that no one will be able to stop. The comms officer spoke up. Commander, I've just received a communication from Ambassador Ruthless. Karani's eyes narrowed. Patch it through. The screen flickered to life, revealing Ruthless once again. This time, the human ambassador's face was grim, but his eyes held a defiant fire that Karani's had never seen before. We are not your enemies, Commander, Ruthless began, his tone sharp but controlled. But you have left us no choice. The power we've uncovered is beyond your comprehension. It is a power that is our birthright, and we will no longer hide from it. The galaxy will bend to our will, or we will force it to. Karani's felt the weight of Raleigh's words in his chest. You've already forced our hand. If you think the Council will stand by and let you control the galaxy, you're gravely mistaken. Raleigh's smile was thin, a cold expression that sent a shiver through Karani's. I never expected the Council to stand by. In fact, I was counting on it. You've already made your first mistake, underestimating humanity. Now you'll make your second, refusing to acknowledge our power. The transmission abruptly ended. Karani's stood still for a long moment, processing what had just been said. Ruthless wasn't just speaking for Earth anymore. He was speaking for something far greater. Humanity was no longer a fledgling species. They were the new force in the galaxy, the ones who would dictate terms. And the Council, despite its power, was powerless against them. Lee Rock stepped closer, her voice urgent. What do we do now? We can't ignore this. We can't let Earth claim the galaxy as their own. Karani's gaze flickered back to the map. Earth was expanding, sending fleets to every corner of known space. Their technology, their control, was suffocating everything in its path. It was only a matter of time before the entire galaxy would either kneel or face annihilation. There's only one way forward, Karani said, his voice resolute. We must unite. Not just the Council, but every power in the galaxy that refuses to bow to Earth. It's the only way to stop them. But will they stand with us? Lee Rock questioned, her skepticism evident. They will, Karani said firmly. Because if we don't stop Earth now, there will be no galaxy left to fight for. The silence in the war room was heavy, but it was the silence of resolve. The galaxy would either bend to humanity's newfound power, or burn in the process. And Karani's knew that in the end, nothing would be the same. The ground shook again, this time with a force that rattled bones. Karani staggered, his claws digging into the concrete floor as the shockwave spread from deep beneath Earth's crust. The rumble wasn't natural. It was calculated, controlled. He turned to Lee Rock, his eyes narrowed in disbelief. It's happening. The awakening has begun. The screens around them flickered and flashed, each one now displaying strange symbols. Symbols that, despite their alien origins, seemed to pulse with an eerie familiarity. Humanity had been guarding this power for millennia, hiding it beneath their cities, buried beneath layers of secrecy. But now it was rising like an unstoppable tide, and Caranese feared it had already grown too strong to stop. "Commander, the planet systems are synchronizing," one of the officers reported, his voice tight with urgency. "Everything is connecting, networks, power grids, satellites. It's like Earth itself is reawakening." Caranese glanced up at the officer, his expression dark. "It's not Earth that's awakening. It's the legacy they've been hiding. The Watcher's power. And it's not something we can control." Lee Rock's voice cut through the tension. "But humanity didn't just discover it. They unleashed it. The Covenant was real. Earth's silence wasn't just to hide the power. It was to prepare for this moment. Humanity has been ready for this all along." The realization hit Caranese like a punch to the gut. This was what the Council had feared. Humanity had been playing a game far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. And now, the galaxy would face the consequences of that gamble. "Commander, incoming transmission," the officer at the communications console called out, his voice tense. "It's a human transmission." Caranese's heart skipped a beat. He didn't need to ask who it was. The human diplomat, the one who had always been Earth's voice in the Galactic Council, was the only one capable of reaching them now. "Put it through," Caranese ordered, his voice grim. The screen flickered to life, revealing a familiar face, Ambassador Ruthless. But this time, there was no calm diplomacy in his eyes. Instead, there was a fire burning deep within them, a resolve Caranese had never seen before. "Commander Caranese," Raleigh said, his voice steady but filled with an undeniable edge. "I trust you're beginning to understand the situation." Caranese's gaze never left the screen. "What have you done, Ruthless? What is happening on Earth?" Ruthless took a breath before replying, his voice low but firm. "We've done what we had to. The Watcher's power is ours now. It was always ours, waiting for us to claim it. The Covenant was never just an ancient relic, it was a promise. Earth was built for this moment. Humanity was destined to be the inheritors of the Watcher's legacy." Caranese's mind raced. "You're playing with forces you don't understand. You're inviting the Council's wrath. You've already sealed your fate." Raleigh's expression hardened. "The Council? You think we fear the Council now? We never did. The power we've uncovered is beyond any of your understanding, beyond anything the Council can control. And we will not be silenced again. Not by you. Not by anyone." For the first time, Caranese saw the truth in Raleigh's eyes. This wasn't just about Earth's survival anymore. Humanity wasn't hiding. It was ready to conquer. They were no longer a small, insignificant species. They were something far more dangerous, something no one had ever predicted. "Do you realize what you've done?" Caranese asked, his voice quieter now. "The Council won't stand for this. If the rest of the galaxy learns of this power, they will come for you. They'll come for all of us. Do you think you can stand alone against them?" Raleigh's lips curled into a cold smile. "We don't need to stand alone, Commander. Not anymore." Before Caranese could respond, the transmission cut out, leaving a chilling silence in its wake. The weight of Raleigh's words hung in the air, suffocating him with the realization that Earth was no longer a player in the galactic game. It was the game itself. A long, low sound reverberated through the room, followed by a voice from the communications officer. "Commander, the energy readings are spiking. The power coming from Earth, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Caranese turned to face the officer, his voice tight with urgency. "What are we dealing with? Can we counter it?" The officer hesitated before speaking again. I don't know, sir. The readings are off the charts. It's as if Earth has tapped into something alive. And it's responding. Lee Rock echoed, her voice sharp with disbelief. "To what?" Caranese stood motionless, the pieces of the puzzle clicking together in his mind. "To us. To everyone who dares to challenge them. Humanity has awakened something far worse than the Watchers themselves. And now the galaxy is about to feel the full force of what Earth has become." The rumble beneath their feet intensified. This was no longer just a battle for survival. This was the beginning of Earth's rise, and the galaxy would have no choice but to bow to its new masters. "Prepare for the worst," Caranese said, his voice laced with foreboding. Because what we're about to face isn't just humanity anymore. It's something far more terrifying. The walls trembled. It wasn't an earthquake. It wasn't an explosion. It was something far older, something buried deep beneath the surface of Earth. And its awakening was now undeniable. Caranese stood at the edge of the underground chamber, eyes narrowed as the low rumble grew louder. The air grew thick with an ancient, unnatural presence, like the stirrings of something long forgotten, something powerful. "Commander," Liroc's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed a hint of fear. "What is this? What did we uncover?" Caranese didn't answer immediately. He stood frozen, piecing together the fragments of the puzzle. Earth's sudden silence, the hidden bunker, the strange, incomprehensible technology. This was no mere human secret. This was something older than the galaxy itself, something that had been buried beneath the planet for millennia. "Commander," another officer called, more insistent now. "The system is coming online. The data is shifting. It's changing." Caranese finally turned to face the officer, his mind racing. "What are we seeing?" he asked. The officer's fingers flew over the control console, his face a mask of concentration. I don't understand it. It's human code, but it's been overlaid with something else. Something ancient." "Ancient?" Liroc asked, stepping forward. "What are you saying?" "We knew humanity had been technologically advanced, but not like this. This is something beyond anything we've encountered." Caranese stood tall, his voice darkening. This wasn't just an accident. Earth didn't just go silent. It chose to disappear, to hide away, and I think humanity knew exactly what they were doing. The officer managed to decrypt a portion of the data, revealing a single phrase in bold, cryptic text. "The covenant is fulfilled." "Is that what this is about?" Liroc asked. "A covenant? With who?" Caranese's gaze hardened as he stepped closer to the console. "Not with who. With what? The covenant isn't just a piece of ancient history. It's the reason Earth was allowed to flourish. The reason humanity was allowed to grow." The officer's fingers danced across the keyboard, and the screen shifted again, this time displaying what appeared to be an ancient, otherworldly symbol, a design that looked alien, yet somehow familiar. The symbol pulsed faintly, as if alive. "This symbol," Caranese said, his voice almost a whisper. "It's part of the Watchers. The ones who built this world before humanity even existed." Liroc's eyes widened. "The Watchers? But they disappeared centuries ago, before even the first council formed. We thought they were a myth." "They're not a myth," Caranese replied sharply. "And humanity has been hiding their legacy all this time. Earth wasn't a colony, it was a vault, a key to something far greater than we imagined." The officer continued to decrypt the data, and what came next caused everyone in the room to take a collective breath. The screen displayed a long-forgotten prophecy, one that had been buried in the deepest archives of the galaxy for generations. It read, "When the silence falls, the true heirs will rise, and the galaxy will know its fate." Caranese stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest. "The true heirs," he muttered. "It was always Earth. Humanity was meant to be the inheritors of the Watcher's power." Liroc looked between Caranese and the screen, her voice barely above a whisper. "And they were prepared. All along, they were waiting for the moment when they would rise. They were never just another species." Caranese clenched his fists. "And now we know why Earth went silent. They didn't want the galaxy to know what they had uncovered. But that moment has come." He turned sharply, his mind already calculating their next steps. "We need to report this. If the rest of the council finds out, they'll come for Earth. They'll come for humanity's power. And if we don't stop them," his voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. If the council discovered Earth's true nature, it could bring about the end of everything. Liroc spoke, her voice steely. "Then we have no choice. We protect Earth. We protect humanity. At any cost." Caranese nodded, but in the back of his mind, a chilling thought echoed. What if humanity's legacy was too powerful to control? The awakening had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn that Earth's silence wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration of something far darker and more dangerous. Something that no one, not even the Council, could hope to contain. The ship was already too late. By the time the new investigation fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, the signals had stopped completely. The usual hum of electronic life had vanished, replaced by an oppressive quiet that seemed to press in from every direction. Not even the stars outside the windows of the flagship dared to shine as brightly. On board the fleet's lead vessel, Commander Karanese of the Talnarch fleet, a creature born of shadow and death, stood at the helm, staring down at Earth's empty face below. His mind raced through possibilities: sabotage, a galactic war that wiped out Earth in a single stroke, an interdimensional breach. But none of them made sense. If anything had happened, they should have seen signs of it. There should have been debris, power fluctuations, some trace left behind. But there was nothing, just silence. "We're nearing the designated landing zone," a young officer called from the communications deck. Her voice cracked with unease, but it was quickly smothered by the professionalism drilled into her over countless missions. Karanese acknowledged her with a sharp nod. His mind was elsewhere, a chilling thought creeping through. What if Earth's silence was the beginning of something far worse? The fleet descended, cutting through the atmosphere as it sent waves of turbulence that rocked the ships. Earth, once a symbol of humanity's power, was now a mystery wrapped in fear. The fleet's primary mission was clear: investigate, understand, and report back. But the gravity of the task was slowly pressing down on Karanese. He wasn't just investigating the disappearance of a planet. He was walking into the unknown. The stakes had never been higher. The Talnarch commander stepped onto the surface of Earth's largest metropolis, the city of New York, once a beacon of human ingenuity and power. Now, it lay silent and abandoned. Towering skyscrapers, once symbols of humanity's rise, stood eerily empty. Not a single soul in sight. No signs of life, no movement, no sound, not even the usual hum of machinery. The human survivors had vanished without a trace. But what disturbed Karanese the most was the way the city was untouched. No charred remains, no wreckage. It was as if time itself had stopped, frozen mid-moment. The roads, usually crowded with people and vehicles, now stretched out like empty veins, devoid of any life force. Karanese squatted down and examined the ground. The streets were clean. No footprints, no discarded belongings. It was as though the city had been wiped clean by some unseen hand. "This doesn't make sense," muttered Lirach, Karanese second in command, her eyes scanning the environment with an unsettling calm. "If this was an attack, there should be something. Anything. But there's nothing." Karanese growled softly, a low rumble from his throat. "It's not an attack. At least, not the kind we're used to. This is something else." He turned, motioning for the team to follow. They made their way deeper into the city, carefully scanning every building, every street, but it was all the same. Empty. Silent. It was then that they found something, a small, hidden bunker beneath one of the central government buildings. The door was sealed, but it was clear this wasn't a natural occurrence. The door had been locked down intentionally. Something was being hidden here. "Prepare for entry," Karanese ordered. The team deployed their tools, quickly slicing through the security systems. As the door slid open, the interior revealed what appeared to be an emergency command center, completely intact. Rows of data terminals flickered in a half-light, their screens displaying nothing but random strings of code. "Access the data," Karanese commanded, his voice low and firm. One of the officers quickly connected to the terminals, but the data was garbled, filled with incomprehensible symbols and strange patterns. It was nothing like the standard human encryption Karanese had expected. "What is this?" the officer asked, visibly confused. "It's not just human technology," Karanese replied, his voice growing cold. "This is something else. Something older." The officer worked frantically, trying to break through the code, but the more they tried, the more scrambled the data became. There was an underlying pulse to the system, a rhythm that didn't fit human logic, a pattern that seemed far too deliberate. Karanese's eyes narrowed. Whoever or whatever did this has been preparing for this moment for a long time. These systems weren't just created to monitor Earth. They were designed for something else. A hidden purpose. Suddenly, the data on the terminal flickered, and a single line of text appeared. Asterisk, we found it. Earth's legacy, asterisk. The phrase sent a chill down Karani's spine. What does it mean? Lerock asked, her voice edged with unease. I don't know yet, Karani's admitted, his mind racing as he processed the implications. But this is no ordinary disappearance. Earth wasn't taken, it chose to hide. And I think humanity knew it was coming. A cold realization gripped him. They were ready. Earth was ready for something we don't understand yet. Before Karani's could speak further, a low rumble shook the ground beneath them. The ground itself seemed to moan, as though something was awakening. The officer who had been working the terminal looked up in alarm. Commander, the system is resetting. The entire planet's networks, they're coming online again. Karani's stepped back, his eyes darting around. There was no telling what kind of power was being unleashed. Whatever humanity had uncovered, it was no longer a secret. The silence was over, and in its wake, something far worse was beginning to stir. The silence came without warning. One moment, Earth's communication arrays hummed with life, transmitting signals across the galaxy like a beacon. The next, there was nothing. Not a flicker, not a whisper, no transmission, no data streams. It was as if Earth had simply ceased to exist in the galaxy's consciousness. And for the Galactic Council, it was nothing short of a nightmare. For centuries, the Council, a coalition of the most powerful alien races, had kept a careful watch over humanity. Earth was considered an upstart, chaotic, and unpredictable, a minor blip on their radar at best. But what had always been overlooked was the potential humanity held. Now, as the silence spread, the once dismissed planet had become their greatest concern. A ripple of panic surged across the galaxy. No alien race was willing to admit it, but all feared the same thing. What if they were already too late? The council convened in haste, assembling their representatives in the vast, silent chamber at the heart of the celestial citadel. The room, usually bustling with activity and the hum of diplomacy, was filled with the tense murmurs of alien leaders from every corner of the galaxy. A towering creature with eyes like twin supernovae shifted uncomfortably, while a sleek, insectoid diplomat clicked her mandibles nervously. I demand an explanation, barked the representative from the Vornic Dominion, his reptilian form rippling with barely contained frustration. Earth has gone quiet, and we are no closer to understanding why. We don't have answers, replied the High Arbiter, a being of light and energy, her voice echoing across the chamber. The Council's best ships were dispatched to Earth as soon as the signal stopped, but their reports have been strange. No sign of life, no signs of attack or sabotage. Yet the planet, it's as if the heart of it has simply gone still. A wave of disbelief swept across the room. How is that possible? Questioned the Granthii, a giant, gaseous entity whose voice sent shivers through the room. A planet so rich with history, so full of life and innovation gone? Earth was a power, albeit an unpredictable one, but surely this is beyond reason. We're dealing with something unprecedented, the Arbiter continued, her voice cold and calculated. The vessels sent to Earth have reported no conventional threats, no weapons, no disasters. Yet they've fallen silent as well. The ships that entered Earth's atmosphere. They vanished, interrupted the Vornic representative, his tone cutting through the silence. Without a trace. Exactly, the Arbiter confirmed. There is no physical trace left of them, either in orbit or on the planet. Earth systems, her communications, all ceased simultaneously. And there's nothing, no debris, no warping of space-time, no technological malfunction. Another silence fell upon the room, this one thick with uncertainty. The possibility that something beyond their comprehension had happened on Earth was becoming too real to ignore. And that fear led to a question nobody dared ask aloud. Asterisk, what if humanity was no longer there to answer the call? Asterisk. We cannot allow this to continue, said the Talnarch of the Uvok, his gnarled fingers tightening into fists. His race, known for their swift and brutal military strikes, had never hesitated to make their power known. We must act. If humanity has decided to vanish from the galactic stage, then we have no choice but to move forward with force. No, the Arbiter replied firmly, her gaze locking with his. We must first understand what has happened. We must act with caution. Our first priority is to send a new fleet, one capable of uncovering the truth. Truth. The Vornik's voice dripped with disbelief. Do you truly believe that Earth's silence is some sort of mystery to be solved? We know what humans are capable of. If they've gone silent, it's because they wanted to. And that, High Arbiter, is something the galaxy should fear. But before anyone could respond, a low hum echoed throughout the chamber. A transmission unexpected, but from an unknown source. The council fell silent, every alien in the room staring at the holographic display. The transmission flickered, then stabilized, revealing a face they would never forget. The human diplomat, the one person who had always stood between Earth's volatile nature and the galaxy's greatest powers, appeared on the screen. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. He spoke one simple sentence, and in that moment, the truth began to unfold. It's them, we've made a mistake. Before anyone could process the gravity of his words, the screen cut to black, and the galaxy's worst nightmare began to take form.